What's up, guys? Thanks for watching the podcast. I truly appreciate it. I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe from you. That helps the YouTube channel grow. And I wanted to drop in and remind you one more thing. If you have any friends, family, or anyone you know looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please have them call me. Get in touch with me via email at blake@blakebaker.net or on Instagram at blakebakerrealestate. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Under Contract podcast.
Cool. Good deal.
All right. Check. Ready?
Yep.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Under Contract podcast. On the last episode, I said it was the 19th episode, but it was actually the 18th episode. This is the 19th episode, and I'm here with my new acquaintance, Glenn.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
give him a round of applause. What's up, man? How are you?
Fabulous, man. Glad to be here. Super excited.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So why don't you just kind of give people a rundown of who you are and what you do?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Glenn. I am the owner of Dexafit in League City, located inside Ironton Fitness. It's a body composition analysis company, so we take the highest levels of technology to scan your body, understand what's going on with your body, so we can measure and track your progress. That could be a MLB pitcher. That could be the average person off the street who's just sick of looking at the scale. It could be a weight loss patient. So taking kind of a wide approach to not just fitness but just general health. So
Yeah, and really, it sounds like really dialing in to where there's like no guesswork.
absolutely, that's the thing, is that this whole thing was really started. I got the idea that my wife every morning was jumping on the scale. Had 3 kids in her 30s, and jumped on the scale and was heartbroken most of the time, just like 99% of people are that jump on the scale. And I started kind of researching that. I was like, man, I'm so sick of seeing this and the depression that it would basically dictate the rest of her day. And I've heard this now that I own a Dexafit from a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a problem. Yes, I care about my wife, and I wanted to solve that problem for her, but I also saw, from a business perspective, a very large market for it. And so ultimately, I said, okay, what is a better way to like weigh yourself? I had no clue what to even Google, you know what I mean? And so, so a lot of things came up, but I was like, okay, but what's the gold standard? And like, what does that cost? Is $1,000 or whatever? Let's just pay that and figure it out. And so Dexa was kind of the reigning supreme, champion, and the gold standard of body composition scanning. So, the story that I tell a lot is that, my wife was having this heartbreak every day, getting on the scale, was crushing it in the gym. And at some point, was kind of one of these, cut the carbs and do the cardio kind of thing. And so I knew, having been around gyms and weightlifting for 25 years, I was like, that if you go into a gym, the guys and gals that really look the best are the guys and gals that are in front of the weight rack, And so I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I was like, at least I can surmise that, right? So anyway, she ended up a few years ago, had a DEXA scan done. And again, I had no idea really what the heck it was. And so she showed me her results. I was absolutely blown away. I was like, okay, we can literally look at muscle tissue in every extremity of the body and all that kind of stuff. So of course I went and had one done, not nearly as healthy as she was, but nonetheless, she had gone to get a subsequent scan like 3 months later or so, and was still the same weight that she was the first scan. I'm like, what the heck, right? So at the outset, you could say, well, that's horrible. Nothing changed, right? The scale didn't change, did it? So the bottom line is that her body composition drastically changed. She dropped like 5% body fat, and the lean tissue went through the roof. Now, to anybody listening, and I'm sure you would agree, that's the magic formula. So who doesn't want to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time? The dude looked at her paperwork and was like, don't change anything. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because you've got the magic formula. So oftentimes what we'll see is people go into these like New Year's resolutions and they go crush it and they just essentially lose a bunch of muscle, and then they screw their metabolism up, and then,
Been there before.
Yeah, we all have, right? I
Just
mean, it's
cardio,
Yeah.
and yeah.
You see fat and you want it gone. That's and then you're like, okay, well, let me go sweat my ass off and lose the fat. But actually, a lot more is going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like you were saying, how you get on the scale and you see a number and it's like, that's not how fat you are. That's right. What your body weight. Cause dude, I'll fluctuate easily 3 to 4 pounds in a day.
Sure.
Depending on how much water I drink, if I went on a run, if I sweated a lot, all that.
Yep.
So, dude, that stuff's fascinating to me. Yeah. And you are right. Like, I was listening to the Dorian Yates podcast with Joe Rogan.
Love it.
And a lot of these guys say the same thing. And now, granted, they are enhanced.
Sure.
With
there's a few more things going on there.
All the Chinese cocktails. And but he was just like, yeah, man, didn't really do much cardio. Right. I walked the dog every day. I got about a 45-minute walk.
Sure.
And I'm like, how does he get so ripped and shredded just doing that? But I mean, a lot of it's diet as well.
Of course, most of it is diet. So the thing is like, if a 60-year-old woman comes to see me who hasn't exercised in 20 years or whatever, doesn't have a good diet, doesn't even really know about diet, maybe he's still in the Atkins phase of like cut the carbs and do the cardio, whatever, I can bring up bodybuilding and she immediately looks disinterested. However, bodybuilding is really kind of the I guess poster child for doing exactly what everybody wants to do. They've just done it to an extreme level. And again, who doesn't want to be more lean? Everybody wants to be more lean. A lot of people would call this more toned, that kind of thing. So essentially, it's the extreme version of what people want to be. And if they've got the formula and they've figured it out, I mean, Arnold started this, 70s, and he shows, if you watch Pumping Iron, he's just eating like almost raw steak and eggs and all that. And they weren't hitting the treadmill.
Dude, it was almost keto.
Yeah, exactly.
Cause I watched that and like, dude, they would just scarf down like milk,
yes,
eggs, bacon, steak. Like,
yes, dude, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So in no way am I saying that cardio is bad or anything like that, but it's just, there's such an uphill battle for us to educate people. We give them these metrics and we're like, okay, this is your body. This is internally what you look like. This is your metabolism. We've got other testing like that we can get into, but it's an uphill battle to say, hey, you should eat 50% carbohydrates. And they're like, what? No, carb bad. I'm like, no, carb really good to protect your muscle. So
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So we kind of guide them. We're not nutritionists. We don't really get a ton into that, but we kind of guide them on kind of the base level where they should be. Now, at the end of the day, I can take somebody way down in the weeds of macro and micronutrients in their system and their body and all that kind of stuff. A 60-year-old who hasn't gotten off the office chair in 20 years, listen, protein, water, and walking, just like you said, walk the dog. Most people burn fat at a very low heart rate.
Basic stuff.
just super basic.
Yeah, you don't have to go crazy if you're that sedentary.
And then you got to think too, if you're getting somebody off of the couch or whatever, and they go just turning and burning in the gym, I mean, injury means something too, right?
Oh,
so yeah, that's not a good thing to do. Now, I'm not at the same time advocating that you take a 60-year-old female and have her go deadlift a couple of plates, but at the same time, actually, really, what we're actually figuring out is the latest research says that powerlifting is really the best prescription for somebody that's in their 50s, 60s, things like that. So it's not just light weights and kind of the back in the day, I can't remember her name, but the she sat in the chair and did like
sit and be fit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the research has come a long way. It's the education that really is an uphill battle, and our responsibility, I feel like, to get out there for our clients.
That's awesome, man. Because I went down a rabbit hole with running for a while, and I still enjoy it. But I guess 2018, 19, like my general weight, like throughout my adulthood, has been I hover around 200 pounds.
Same.
But at that time, I got super into running, and I was intermittent fasting as well. And dude, a lot of my muscle people were like making comments like, "Damn, dude, your arms are looking skinny." I'm like, "Oh shit," But it's always been kind of a struggle for me to lose body fat and keep muscle. It's I feel like I either have to lose fat and muscle or gain muscle and fat, which the gaining muscle and fat is somewhat true. Like you're going to get thicker if you're like in a calorie surplus.
Sure.
But what do you, I mean, I don't know. I just,
well, the first thing you got to really look at and decide is what body type are you, ectomorph, endomorph, or, you know, like I've had a couple of mesomorphs. They're out there. They walk around at 15% body fat and 240 pounds, and it's unbelievable.
They're just jacked.
I'm just like, is this normal? Like, you? Yeah, they're like, this is how I walk around. I'm like, that's phenomenal. So that's what we all want to be like, obviously, but we're not. Most of us are not there. That's a very small percentage. So ectomorphs generally, tend to, they're guys that are thinner, leaner. And if they cut any kind of weight, they try to lose a little bit of fat. The muscle's going right with it. Now you have conversely, endomorphs that basically, if they put on muscle, they're going to put on fat, and the same thing happens kind of in reverse. So it's the machines that we have and the technology that we have helps you understand, no matter which one of those that you are, exactly what's going on with your body. And I tell everybody that comes in, I say, there's no scan that you should have once. There's no technology in here that you should just take advantage of. Maybe if you're just curious or something like that, that's fine. But the idea is to understand where you are, what your body type is, what your goals are, and how we're going to get there. And then we track that as we go. So sometimes, like one example could be, I've got a bodybuilder that's competing in the Phil Heath show in Pasadena coming up. He came in at 10% body fat, and he's cutting down to 3% in 10 weeks. That's unbelievable, right? So that means like he won't have fat on the bottom of his feet. However, he has to know as a competitive edge that what he's doing and putting in his mouth is working, right? So if he's off track and he's not getting to that goal, he needs to know about that. It's very, very important. Again, an extreme side to it, but nonetheless, I mean, let's not waste the time. That's why I tell people we teach you how to burn fat, either gain, sustain muscle at the same time, the most efficient way possible. Because if you know what you're doing is working, keep doing that, you know. However, if you say, okay, I'm going to go get some exercise, I'm going to go run and maybe get some off this fat off. Well, I can tell you've also, once you come in to get scanned again, I can tell you that you've lost muscle, which muscle is your engine for burning fat that runs in the background 24/7. So, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I tell people, my motto is kind of like, don't lose fat, gain muscle. Because the more muscle you have, it speeds up your metabolism, and it takes your body a tremendous amount of effort to sustain that muscle. So in any time there's a system in your body that's running in the background 24/7, basically your body's going to use the most efficient fuel source, which is low and slow. That's called fat. So
yeah. Getting into running and losing all my muscle taught me a lesson, which is heart rate zones.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know, like, it's counterintuitive, right? Mm-hmm. Because you think like, dude, walking on incline and getting my heart rate like barely elevated. Yeah. Like you would think you're going to like get much better results, like sprints or just like super high heart rate stuff. Yeah. But in reality, that's just all anaerobic and just burns muscle.
Exactly. I mean, most of the time, if you're up that high, you're burning through protein. You're clearly burning through carbs, but at some point, you're going to burn through protein. Protein is very satiating. It's very hard to get in anyway. I mean, most people eat a third of what they should have a day per day. And again, research is coming out backing everything I'm saying about protein. Protein is massively important for multiple functions of the body to keep us healthy and hopefully live a long, healthy life. However, it's not just for, aesthetic muscles, right? So,
dude, but protein is so important. Like, because there's days where I have like a busy schedule and I don't get my shakes in. Like, what I do is egg whites with protein.
Sure.
And that's like 50. You can't absorb all that at one time, but it's like pure protein. And the days I miss those, the next day in the gym, I can tell a difference immediately. But if I'm dialed in and like eating enough and like getting enough protein, I'm like literally working out and like I just don't want to leave the gym because I feel so good.
Right.
It's crazy. It's
2 hours into it, you're like, all right, I got to get to work.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, no, and there's two things that I'll say too. I think that's really important when it comes to, we're talking about macronutrients when it comes to carbohydrates. And this whole idea of like you shouldn't eat carbs before bed and all this kind of crap.
So macros, for people who don't know, that's going to be your protein, carbs, and fat numbers.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. It's just a macro level view of the nutrition that your body requires. And we'll get into RMR and all that kind of stuff here in a minute. But I mean, I could go all day with this. I'm such a nerd for it. But this whole thing of like, oh my God, you should never have carbs before before bedtime. Well, listen, if you're getting up and say you are doing a boot camp class or something like that, you're going to be smoked. You need carbs before that, and it's not 10 minutes before that. It's several hours before that. You know what I mean? So, and if the carbs aren't there, you're using muscle glycogen to see what I'm saying? So, some of these, again, really so much of our job is just educating and hopefully kind of changing people's minds. We always give a book recommendation called Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle, and it really just kind of breaks away all the yo-yo dieting and all these things. People come in all the time and they say, well, I've been intermittent fasting. I have no issue with intermittent fasting whatsoever, but it may not be for them. It may not be even working for them. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to scan them. We're going to see if it is working to hopefully their goal is to lose fat and gain muscle. But yeah, you were talking about heart rate zones. That's a really important thing. I love it because all this stuff is becoming more mainstream. Dr. Peter Attia has talked about DEXA scans, several others, that are talking more and more about the importance and accuracy of a DEXA scan. So the other thing that we do too is we do VO2 max testing. So some folks may be familiar, but I'll kind of explain what that is. So it's basically you're on a treadmill with a mask on, hooked up to a tube, and it goes to a machine. Oops. It's a kind of a dual function machine, which also allows us to get data from a resting metabolic rate. I'll talk about that here in a second. So 90%, 80% of what we do is not a running test. Okay. You're not going to get me excited about getting on a treadmill and running. No, just not going to happen. Nor would I frankly be willing to or have any business doing that. Right. So, we get most of the data, or 100% of the data that we need from a walking test. So what that tells us is exactly what heart rate zones you burn the most fat, the most efficiently. So oftentimes people are going to be like about 0.5 gram or 0.6 grams per minute at a certain heart rate. For me, that's like 120. For Stephanie, my wife, who's the co-owner of Dexafit, the boss, let's be honest, is I think at about 107. So
wow.
Yeah. So she's like, she's got to be careful. She's not getting into the carb range, burning through her carbs and, stuff like that. So, and she rarely does, cardio. So those are really important metrics to know and to utilize in your journey. Now, having said that, that's a moving target. So the smaller you are, the less energy you require, which is called a calorie, right? So this is an ever-changing thing. This is, again, why there's no scan or test that you should get one time. We're kind of constantly, and it's not an upsell. It's just one of those things where it's like we want to work with you to get you to the best version of yourself, and this data doesn't lie. Our machines don't lie to you. So find out exactly what heart rate. Most of the time, it's walking the dog. I ask people all the time, do you have a dog? Yeah. Well, I bet your dog would really appreciate it and your body would really appreciate it if you just take a 30-minute walk a day, 30-minute walk. Dog will be worn out. You'll feel good. You still get the endorphin rush from being outside and doing some level of cardio, right? It is cardio. It doesn't have to be Stairmaster cardio, right? That's what we're getting at. So, that most of the time that's sufficient for people to burn fat, not at 170 beats per minute. Same guy that actually did my wife's DEXA scan said she needs to get her heart rate up to 170. Now, if you take a person that's extremely fit like my wife, it's almost impossible.
That's to get them up that high.
To get them up that high because their cardiopulmonary system is so efficient.
Yeah.
So she has zero business trying to get to 170.
When I was in the best cardio shape of my life, I got to a point to where I couldn't get my heart rate above like 145, 150. Right. Dude, yep. Cranking. And
it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. But one of the things I learned about the heart rate training with running is I used to just take off and like not even care. Mm-hmm. But the more I got into running, and especially when I did my half marathon, I realized how important it is to stay in your aerobic, mm-hmm. Zone. Sure. Because if you, especially in a 13-mile race, if you come out the gate hot and blow your heart rate up, yep, you're done. Exactly. Like you're literally done.
Once you cross that threshold from aerobic to anaerobic, it is incredibly important. So just for those listening, the aerobic threshold is essentially what you could do for hours and hours at a time. That's like walking. Okay, we can all probably walk for a really long time, depending the pace, of course, depending on injury, all those other things. But you and I could probably walk through the desert midsummer and not have an issue for 8 hours, yeah. Right? So, however, when you cross in the anaerobic threshold, the body is switching fuel sources essentially. And so there's a lot going on, but just for, simple terms, body's switching fuel sources. And at that point, your body's saying, I cannot sustain this.
You go into shock almost.
Yes, exactly. So we see this, it's funny, the walking test that we do, we don't actually change the speed, we change the incline, and you can see when somebody's heart rate goes, I can tell almost immediately before that even produces the data on the graph, here we go. And that you can see these two lines, whoop, they'll converge. And then we've crossed in that threshold. And that's when, I'm like, okay, thumbs up, thumbs down, so they're getting tapped out. So, but anyway, yeah, so that's a really important thing to understand. Now, do we have endurance athletes? Yeah, 100%, that come in to get VO2 max testing, and they're going to max themselves out. They run. So, I've got a guy that's done over 780 marathons. He does ultras. Yeah. I got an email from him, I think it was last night or so, and he said, "Oh yeah, sorry, Glenn, I haven't been able to make it by." He said, "I'm doing 100-miler this week, and I got like 100 and something next week." And I'm like,
"Is it David Goggins?"
So when I mentioned Goggins, I felt like an idiot even mentioning it to him. He's like, "Yeah, he's not really like a real ultra." I'm like, Moab 240. I'm like, bro, like he's got to be, right. But in the running world, you got to think he's kind of, maybe middle of the pack, something like that, right? So
that is wild to think about.
100%. So,
and I'm pretty sure his knees are like bone on bone now. I don't know how much running he can actually do, but
yeah,
like the story about where he ran. Well, it was like he ran. Was it 100 miles around the track?
Yes, exactly. What a miserable.
And he said he was like, I ran 100 miles before I ever ran a marathon.
Yeah,
and he was like saying that like. He basically just got off the course and his body just shut down. Yeah. He like crapped his pants.
Right.
And,
peeing out coffee and all that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's an unbelievable feat. And listen, at the end of the day, if running makes you feel good and it gets those endorphins going, I mean, rarely have you ever gone on a run, whether or not you wanted to, coming back feeling worse than what you did, right?
I find the long runs really cleanse me.
For sure.
Dude, like the thoughts in my head after a half marathon, just...
Absolutely.
Gone.
Absolutely. So the other thing that I was going to mention too that we do is what you call resting metabolic rate testing. So a lot of people call it BMR, RMR. There's a couple of different terms for it. But again, part of the education that we do is telling people that your body actually burns the most calories at rest. So basically, if Blake was in a coma, he's constantly burning through energy, okay, doing nothing. There's a lot of systems that you have working: nervous system, respiratory system, cardiovascular, endocrine, digestive, all these things that are working constantly in the background. Guess what, man? If they weren't, you and I wouldn't be talking. So it's really important. So like 90% of what you burn in terms of calories is just
at rest,
existing. Yeah. So very small fraction of what you actually burn is through exercise. And so, what we do is we look at, your unique makeup. We kind of give you a DEXA scan, see kind of where you are, where you want to be. And then we bring you to the other side of the office and look at your metabolism. So see how we can mold and kind of tweak the things that you can control to best suit that metabolism. In other words, if you burn 2,000 calories at rest, we want you eating 2,000 calories. Right. And, there's a lot of information out there as far as what that looks like, what that best split is, all that kind of stuff. I will just say at a baseline, tried and true is 50% carbs, 30% protein, 20% fats. So that's worked for a lot of people. I'm not prescribing that or anything like that, but so that's kind of the baseline, for most people. So that said, if you eat 2,000 calories, I don't care what the split is, and you go to exercise, well, then you're in a calorie deficit. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's good. If you want to, depending on your goals, now, if you're maybe bodybuilding, okay, you're really in a season where you want to increase the lean tissue as much as possible. Again, depending on your body type, you may increase fat. It just depends. Or you just may have a harder time if you're an ectomorph, you're a skinnier, leaner guy, and your calorie surplus may need to be a lot more to get you there, right? So that's one of the things that we do, and it's like the easiest test in the world. You just lay there. We try to get you as relaxed as possible. Turn on some music. We kind of dim the light, and it takes about 12 minutes, and we get all the data that we need. So all those things working together, you've gotten the best physical tune-up, or at least diagnostic information to tune you up that you've ever had. Most people come in our office. I'll plug my company a little bit. They come into the office and have an expectation. Generally speaking, we blow that expectation out of the water.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw your page first. That's the first way I heard about Dexafit.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm on, it was either Instagram or Snapchat, but I followed Dan Bilzerian.
Okay.
And he posted his body fat thing, and it said Dexafit on the page. I was like,
nice.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got involved with Dexafit really just through some light research that I did, and found that there was actually a location in Houston that was collateral damage from closed down as collateral damage from COVID. And I saw an opportunity there, not just in League City, but I've actually got the I wouldn't say rights, but at least gentleman's agreement and a first right of refusal for 3 other locations. So basically all the surrounding counties. So just because we're in League City and it's maybe not convenient for some to get to, which is unbelievable, because I've actually had a guy from Lake Charles come to us. Yeah. So like Cypress, the Woodlands, Channel View, Sugar Land, Katy, Downtown Heights, Memorial, all over, River Oaks. So we've had folks all over from all over Houston. However, we're definitely going to try to make it a little bit more convenient. Southwest part of town, maybe west, I don't know. We'll see, maybe north side of town. So all the surrounding counties.
Yeah, this sounds like an excellent, like I was saying, there's no guesswork, because dude, if you get on YouTube or any of these, there's so much conflicting information. Like you were saying, eat carbs, don't eat carbs, vegan, you name it. And it gets to a point to where I'm like, dude, like which way, like what's the right way to go with this? And depending on your different goals. But one thing I did want to talk to you about is just like more on the bodybuilding side. Cause I mean, I've been working out and I've never gotten like jacked to that level, but it amazes me. I love going on YouTube and just watch, just search like a day of eating with whoever. The amount of food that these dudes eat and how they stay as lean as they do, I don't understand. Is there something I'm missing?
No, I think that's the thing, is that most people aren't willing to do that. I mean, you're not just grazing, you're constantly shoveling food in, right? So, those guys are really not professional bodybuilders. That's what they do part of the time. They're professional eaters, and they've figured out a way to eat as much as they need to without completely gagging themselves. If you ever eaten a meal 5 days in a row, you're like, okay, and I can't do this anymore. Like green beans, I'm done. Right. So yeah. So those guys have got it figured out. Evan Centopani is one of the guys that I really like watching, because he's really about the food, and he kind of goes out there, like he gets different livers and things like that. And it really kind of is so educated on the nutrition thing, but the guy is just massive, and it's no joke. I mean, he eats a lot. So yeah, I mean, like JJ Watt, for example, I think he was up to like 7,500 calories a day. That's unbelievable.
And he had a bed at the facility to take naps.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, listen, if you do that full time, you can do that kind of thing, but most people aren't willing to do that. I mean, you're literally, my wife, for example, I've seen her plenty of times, the last meal of the day, just like 3 pieces of chicken and like pieces of chicken in the bowl left. And she's like, can't do it, know? And that's coming from somebody, I want to emphasize, that looks amazing. She's sub 20% body fat all day, every day, has had 3 kids, is in her 30s, is completely natural. And she constantly eats. That's all she does, So it's pretty wild. So fortunately, she has a job where she can do that and be at home and be able to prepare food, and we're on the same page together. So there's, that's definitely helpful.
So Jay Cutler, one of the all-time greats, he said that he would eat every 2 hours like clockwork. He would wake up in the middle of the night to eat. And wild. He was like saying, his metabolism, he was always like pretty lean. And he said, I can't have like light stuff. I have to have like the fast stuff. Like after training, he said he'll just take 6 packs of sugar and just down them. And I've heard that. I grew up riding motocross, and that's a super high heart rate sport, cardio.
Yep.
And I've heard some of the best. There's this dude named Alden Baker who's like, he's the generally accepted greatest of all time trainer for motocross.
Sure.
Made several champions. But he will give his guys a original Coca-Cola, like after a workout, and they just slug it back.
Yep.
And that's counterintuitive to what most people think. But what's going on is that they're putting the glycogen back in the muscles.
Exactly.
With the sugar.
Exactly. And ironically, I mean, this isn't for everybody, but a lot of the endurance athletes, when I say endurance athletes, like ultra marathoners or marathoners, Coca-Cola is the number one choice. Gummy bears and Coca-Cola, because they are expending very quickly what's going in. So they have literally found this flow state of like whatever's coming in is burnt, whatever's coming in is burnt. And so in fact, a lot of times it's really hard for them to even get enough in because they're burning so much, you know. So, but hey, listen, that's why those guys have super skinny upper halves, right? They're almost nothing there. I mean, look at Lance Armstrong, you know, if you see him riding it, he's got toothpicks for arms, you know. But again, that's because, you know, there's the fact that, you know, everything that's going in is going out, but not to mention he's burning through a lot of protein.
Cycling's power to weight ratio, period.
Yes.
My buddy Justin Martin lives in Colorado, and he is like sponsored, does road biking, mountain biking. He's professional and everything. He was telling me he, like on a ride, will take food with him, and he'll eat like 1,500 to 2,000 calories on the bike.
Right.
And I have found that to be true as well. Like when I ran my half marathon, it took me a little over 2 hours. Every 45 minutes, I had those gels.
Yep.
Dude, those are a game changer.
Oh yeah.
I started, like I said, trying not to blow my heart rate up, and my game plan was to just like stay at that same heart rate, and then the last half of the race speed up. And my last mile was my fastest mile, which was the game plan.
Okay. So you cracked the code. You got it figured out.
Well, yeah, I just need to be lighter.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, dude, it blew my mind the first time I tried those gels. I was like, why have I not been doing this?
Right. Exactly. And if you were to eat those or take those or whatever, a few of those throughout the day, sedentary, think about what that's doing, right? So like that can't be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but nor would be downing Coca-Cola all day as sitting around, right? But you know, like you're saying, you're expending so much energy that whatever's kind of going in is going out. You know, so it's that, to me, that's a fascinating thing. And frankly, the athletes of the world, I grew up around athletes. My brother was a high level football player and things like that. So I was never gifted any athletic ability. I couldn't really ever figure out like what side of the field I was supposed to be on, you know? But that's always fascinated me. And frankly, Dexafit was one of those ways I was like, yeah, business opportunity, wife. Yeah, of course. But was like, okay, this can be my contribution to something I'm really interested in, sport and especially weightlifting, things like that, things that I'm not very good at, but to kind of fill that gap and have a purpose in that space, you know what I mean? Because that it's extremely fulfilling. I mean, I've had a guy tell me, he's like, dude, you're doing God's work.
Yeah, man.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you literally, because you're saving, you know, you're adding time to people's lives. You're improving everything about their life. It just shocks me the lack of education about nutrition in the United States, which is obvious because of our insane obesity numbers. Sure. Heart disease is the number one killer of men and women, I believe. But dude, like the other day I'm in the gas station and there's this guy, I just noticed stuff like this. Like he's making his coffee, right? And he wasn't like a fat guy, but he was like just American fat.
Sure.
Like, you know, normal American. And dude, he took the sugar and held his coffee and did this. And he was doing this. And I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
But most people don't think twice about it. It just is what it is.
100%.
And, you know, the soft drinks, I challenge everybody next time you're at the gas station and you're looking to get an energy drink or Gatorade or whatever it is, just look at the sugar content.
Yep.
And how they trick you is it'll say 35 grams of sugar, which is horrible, but it'll say per serving, and then it'll say servings per container 3.
Right. Yeah.
Why is it so misleading?
Well, I've also heard a lot of this thing lately because the energy drink thing has exploded. Now, I could really get it down to the weeds of that. I don't drink energy drinks. I'm not completely against them.
Certain ones are better than others.
Yeah, I think. But there's some real smart chemists, guys that are a lot smarter than I am, that are making up all kinds of words for sugar and like chemicals and shit.
Because it says zero sugar.
Yeah, like I'm not convinced. Okay, sure.
Well, like back in the day when like Monster and Full Throttle and all that came out, it was just straight up on the thing. It was like, yeah, here's 70 grams of sugar. Right. Here's 400 milligrams of caffeine. Right. Enjoy.
Yeah. Want to wake up? Drink one of these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of the energy drink thing, but anyway, where were we going with that?
Don't remember. But I did want to ask you about something I would love to be more educated on, and that's recovery.
Sure.
Some people will tell you, like Dorian Yates, I trained 4 days a week for 45 minutes per session.
Yep.
And that's it. Yep. And like, that doesn't sound like a lot, but he said, I've never had anyone say they want to do more after they work out with me. But, I find that I enjoy going to the gym so much that I hate taking days off just because I enjoy. It's like a mental thing for me.
Sure.
But I can definitely tell. Like we went on a ski trip a couple weeks back, so I didn't lift weights for like a week, and I was just up there skiing. And when I came back, I could physically tell that I had like filled out a little more.
Yeah.
Because my body had time to actually recover for that week,
right,
muscle wise.
Right.
And that's one thing I definitely need to dial in is my recovery more, I think.
Yeah, you and the rest of us. Now, here's another cool thing is that this is becoming so much more mainstream. How many times do you get on Instagram or whatever platform and the guy's jumping into a cold plunge?
Every day,
right? At least 5 times a day, some dude's jumping into his ice bath or whatever. Obviously, it helps when Rogan talks about it. But the benefits, it's not new by any stretch. But the benefits, of course, guys like Wim Hof, by the way, have become popular. It's a kind of household name now, right? The guy's cured himself of so many things, and I don't know specifically, but phenomenal. But anyway, these types of recovery modalities are becoming way more mainstream, which is awesome. So I'm actually starting another company outside of Dexafit because there's such a vacuum for this. And I'll get into the, say like weightlifting recovery side here in a second. So I'm taking all those modalities and putting them together. IV drip is a big one, cold plunge. So hot cold therapy is more and more prevalent. So all these things are proven. Again, they're not new, but putting those all under one roof and calling it API or Athletic Performance Institute. So stretching is big. I mean, now you have Stretch Lab and you have, it used to just be like the massage place or whatever. And those are on every corner now. So, I mean, this people, it's funny, man, because as much as misguided as people are, at the same time, there's this groundswell, this almost revolution of these modalities that are coming out that are becoming mainstream, So, anyway, so that's that. There's that. But yeah, we've all. Well, I say we've all. I'll ask you specifically. Say you had a trip or you just took a few days off by whatever circumstance, right? It's a longer few days off than what you would normally have from the weight room. So what happens when you go back?
You feel amazing.
You're freakishly strong, right? So you've given that muscle time to recover and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you were missing the weight room a little bit, but you were busy doing something else. Maybe it was a vacation or whatever. But you go back and you're like, whoa, man, I added 10 pounds to my bench or whatever. So that's, that's something to consider. Now you can choose to do the bro split, the International Chest Day and that kind of stuff. But really, that's if it works for you and you enjoy it, that's awesome. But we're really finding out that there's other tempos and frequencies and things like that within the workout regimen that you can do that's more beneficial. And a lot of it, is less. I've even heard, I think it's Hunter Labrada that said he does legs every 11 days.
Tom Platz used to do it every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He said that it was so intense, his workouts, that his nervous system would be like messed up after that.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's really getting after it, right? So
he's the GOAT with legs.
100%. So yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. So think about the tons and tons of tissue that you have in your leg muscles, right? They obviously say they're the biggest muscles in our body, and then completely destroying those and then going back 4 or 5 days later to do that again. That doesn't, just common sense tells you something's not quite right about that.
Yeah, and think of it this way. Dorian Yates also said, he was like, if you want to think about recovery, think about it this way. You'd say you take a piece of sandpaper and you rub your hand until it's bloody.
Right.
And then the next day you go back and do it again. You're not making progress.
Right.
You just have a bloody hand.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to give it, but if you wait until it heals up and has callus and builds against that, then you've recovered. Same thing with muscles. Like if you were to, you get a paper cut, it takes it 5, 6, 7 days to like kind of heal.
Sure.
So muscles, I guess it's somewhat, the same way.
No, absolutely. 100% agree with you.
Yeah. So, well, man, I want to plug Jordan real quick. I know she helps y'all with y'all's social media. What all does she do for you?
So I'll start by saying this. Jordan is a massive asset to what we do. A lot of people say, hey, I talked to you on Instagram. I'm like, oh, wasn't me, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's my marketing girl. So she is phenomenal. What she's done for us has absolutely helped our business, from the time that we opened our doors, really explode through social media. And I didn't realize how impactful, frankly, that social media would be for our business. I thought it was going to be a lot more like heavy on the Google end. And that's definitely a piece of it, but man, it's Instagram and things like that. And the stuff that the analytics that she gives us are like freakish. She's like, yeah, I can't remember exactly, but she's like, yeah, 11-second videos at 5:33 in the evening are really popping. I'm like, okay, like, wow, I would have just, you don't want to see what I come up with, And
it's always changing, dude. I mean, like what catches fire? Like,
right.
If you don't know Instagram, you have to post reels now because they're trying to compete with TikTok. And I've recently, in August, I started posting pretty much every day. I don't know if you've seen my videos.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah,
thank you.
They're super crisp and if like I just flip on there, it's like I learn something every time about the housing market and stuff like that. Yeah, so
nice. Thanks.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's definitely something you have to learn and dedicate time to. And if you're a busy guy like yourself, you don't have time for all that, and it may not be your passion.
Yep.
And the fact that she can just kind of remove that headache from your life and bring y'all massive results is awesome.
Oh, 100%, man. I just can't say enough about Jordan and Rain Media, which is her company. It's phenomenal. Like I don't tell her to do really anything. She just does it. She like finds information and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that about DEXA scans. And I own Dexafit, she's phenomenal. So, dude, just the content that she, comes up with and pushes out daily. She meets with us, once a week to create, videos and things like that. So she's always so willing to be there. We did a scan. I can't remember the time, but it was pretty early. It was like 7:00. We don't open till 10. We'll make exceptions, for people that need to be, some of these tests you need to be fasted for. And so I don't even remember how it came together, but Jordan caught wind of it somehow and showed up at 7:00 in the morning. It's like, I'm not even paying you for this. And like, you're a rock star. So yeah dude, I can't say enough about the show that she's been single-handedly so responsible for the success of our business, at least in terms of the social channels and things like that. So
that's dope, man.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you doing this. Anything you want to plug, anything you want to say to wrap it up?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to know your body, transform your life, I would come by and see us. Definitely make an appointment. We are an appointment-based model. So the reason for that really is just to give our customers 100% attention and of our time. When the customer comes in, we do shut the door. There's nothing that's discussed that's open. I mean, somebody that comes in that's has a high body fat percentage probably doesn't want that announced, in the office when other customers are in there and things like that. So we have some tough conversations on the front end. Don't wait and get fit, and then come get a DEXA scan. Do it now. Go get fit, and then come back and be proud of yourself based on the results that we give you. And not only that, but understand that what you're doing is actually working. And if it's not, maybe there's a few things you can adjust with your diet, your exercise, something like that, that will help along the way. But until you do that subsequent scan, there's no way really for you to know. I mean, other than maybe some aesthetics, and God forbid you use the bathroom scale to do that. So we take that bathroom scale number and break it down so you're not heartbroken. And yeah, come by and see us, man.
If anybody wants to make an appointment, how do they do that?
So the easiest way is to really find us on Instagram. Again, thanks, Jordan. There's a book now button on there. We do have a website. It's Dexafit.com. You just find our location, and you can see our specials, combos, all that kind of stuff on the website. Facebook as well. And of course, call my number if you have any questions whatsoever. It's 832-294-3028. That's my cell phone right there. That's my personal phone. And I will absolutely love to talk with you and educate you a little bit more on what we do.
Sweet. And where is your office exactly?
211 FM 646 in League City. It's kind of the border of Dickinson and League City, inside Iron Den Fitness. So we just lease a little office from them. Their gym is a big building in the back. Yeah, come by and see us. Once you pull up, you'll see the windows have Dexafit on them. I think it says body scans or something like that. So, yeah, come by and see us and check it out. You will definitely not be disappointed.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, this was awesome. I could definitely go down those rabbit holes, but I'm sure the people would probably tune out at that point. This is super interesting. And I think what y'all are doing is the wave of the future for sure, as far as fitness and, the science behind it. So I think that's awesome, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, dude. Yep. Appreciate it.
Sounds good.